Okay, so this is our forum today featuring Sharon Gill. I'm going to go ahead and read her bio, and I was looking over it right before we started, and I was like, oh my God, she's really done a lot of amazing things. So get ready with all of your questions here today. Sharon Gill is a gifted leader, business strategist who specializes in building organizations, for-profit, and social enterprise from the ground up. For more than 20 years, Sharon has leveraged value-based leadership principles to enable business organizations and their leaders to accomplish their visions. She works with entrepreneurs, executives, and thought leaders across diverse industries, including corporate, nonprofit, and faith-based medical, gaming, and educational arenas. That's a mouthful. I'm going to say that again. I feel like she's pretty much done everything. So diverse industries, including corporate, nonprofit, faith-based, medical, gaming, and educational arenas. Rather than settling for feel-good or incidental impacts, Sharon delivers results that transform leaders and their businesses, helping her clients to experience quantum positive change. All of this is derived from Sharon's deep faith and values-driven coaching and consulting practices. She has the ability to work with startup ventures as well as seasoned organizations looking to grow to their next level. By instituting a 360-degree process, she leaves no stone unturned in getting to the root of organizational and personal impediments to growth. I feel like I'm going to be pruned today. I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Let's see, where am I? She is a summa cum laude graduate of Palm Beach Atlantic University with a degree in leadership and organizational development, graduating as the top graduate in her class. She is also a graduate of the Minority Business Executive Program at Dartmouth College. She's been recognized by organizations such as the American Red Cross, Bank of America, Office Depot, Palm Beach State College, the Women's Chamber of Commerce, the Palm Beach Post, and South Florida Business Journal for her business and community leadership over the years. She is the author of Come Back with Confidence, a manual for those needing strategies to re-enter the workforce after an unexpected job loss. What Business Are You In? For Struggling Entrepreneurs and the Gorgeous Woman, a faith-based study on how women can leverage their faith to reach their maximum potential. Sharon also maintains a highly visible social media presence and is one of the top leadership influencers on the LinkedIn platform. Her leadership videos, posts, and insights receive thousands of views from around the globe per month. She appeared in numerous magazines, podcasts, and television programs where she shares her leadership and entrepreneurship expertise with the world. Okay, let's give it up for Sharon Gill. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're going to go ahead and let you take us away. I don't know how you're going to do this in this amount of time because you have so much to pour into us, but we're ready.
All right. Thank you so much. That was a mouthful. I'm like, where did they get all of that stuff from? But I guess someone coupled that together.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We just wanted to make sure that everybody knew how amazing you are. So thank you again for being here with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I thank Renee for suggesting that I, work with your team, and because she so much loves what you guys do. I don't know if she's on the call today, but this was our Renee introduction, and I really appreciate that. So I'm going to, you said a lot, but I'm going to narrate to one topic today, and it's imposter syndrome, because what I find to be so intriguing for me is like I work with all these leaders, and yet whether you're a CEO or just a startup, I find this thing here at play, imposter syndrome. And so I wanted to have us explore it together. And I want you to think about when I'm going through the slides, does any of this resonate with you? So first, we're going to start. What is imposter syndrome? So let me go to that slide. It is, at its core, it's a psychological phenomenon, right? So where individuals doubt their abilities, feel like frauds, and fear being exposed as incompetent despite evidence of their accomplishments. And I first really began to realize how widespread this was when COVID happened. And I was, all of a sudden I was getting a lot of business from, you know, thought leaders and influencers, especially on LinkedIn. And these were people who I had followed and had massive following, but they felt like frauds. And I couldn't connect the dots because for me, I was admiring these folks and they really were worth admiring because they had accomplished great things, but they themselves felt like frauds and it was doing a havoc to their mental health, just to their self-image, but they were projecting a different, you know, a different face to the public. And so I began to really explore this. And as I'm talking to CEOs and, you know, just corporate leaders, and I realized even the most successful ones are struggling at times with this particular syndrome. So notice it said, despite evidence of their accomplishments, which means that there's great evidence, but yet they fail to believe that they're worth it. So, and I want to say that at first I thought that this was mostly a women's issue. And I had a chance last year to speak with a group of thought leaders in the oncology space in Boston last year. And it was the men who were answering the questions and identifying what we're going to share today. And for me, that was fascinating because, again, you know, society, we look at men as they got this, you know, you know, they've got this, they're confident, they're, you know, and for the most part, they are. I was very surprised when these men were saying, that's me, that's me, that's me. So it really, you know, it really had me like exploring even further in this phenomenon. So let me see if I can move this. Okay, my next slide here is, what are some statistics? So in a 2020 KPMG study, which was interesting because we're right around the time of COVID, it showed that 75% of women in executive positions report experiencing imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. And I know there are a lot of women on the call today, and I just want you to think about when we go through how does it manifest, to think about have you ever had these symptoms or are you having them now? And imposter syndrome has a real negative effect on career trajectories because of that self-doubt and that, you know, negative self-talk, which we'll go into in a moment. So what are some of the common triggers and manifestations? Number one, fear of failure. And it's not necessarily in the order of how they manifest, but fear of failure, which can be extremely paralyzing. So for example, a person in a leadership position might avoid taking on new challenges because they're afraid they won't meet the expectations, even though they're fully capable. So you're fearing failure, you're already in a leadership, but you won't go to that next level, your very next step, that higher level, because you are afraid that you will not meet expectations, even though you're fully capable. And, you know, we're a Christian group, so I just want to remind everyone, right, that 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline, right? Power, love, and self-discipline. And you may think to yourself, well, do Christians, do they experience imposter syndrome? Yes, yes, and yes. I also coach pastors. And I'm laughing because I find even among pastors, they probably have it even worse than anyone else, okay? Because imagine that expectation every week to deliver a sermon that's going to save lives, put people into eternal destiny with Christ, that pressure, and they're never quite feeling good enough. So fear of failure. Perfectionism is another manifestation. An example here is of a woman or a man striving for perfection in their work, setting impossibly high standards for themselves. But when they fail to meet that standard, which was unrealistic from the get-go, it's interpreted as a personal failure, which then intensifies the imposter syndrome. So it's, okay, I'm aiming for perfection. I can't reach perfection. It's not going to happen. When you don't meet that standard that you set for yourself, which was perfection, which is you're not going to meet anyway, you then get into this mindset that I'm an imposter. You know, I'm not really that good enough. But your standards were unrealistic. And you got to set realistic goals. And we'll get into a little bit of that. And, you know, I have a Proverbs here written down, Proverbs 16:3. It says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And I think we need to look at how we're setting these goals for ourselves, right? Don't set them from a place of timidity, so I have to be perfect, or a certain mindset that says, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not good. Whereby the scripture says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, right? And he will establish your plans for you. All right, so the next one I see a lot is attribution bias. What is attribution bias? It is often, you know, this is where if someone gives you a compliment, for example, you say, oh, that's not me, that's luck, or it's my team. It's great to give your team credit. It's wonderful, and more leaders should do that. But you have to be careful if when you're giving credit is either to deflect from you because you have that anxiety. So you're attributing all the good stuff to something else, luck, your team. However, the bad stuff you take on. So attribution bias is where you tend to, oh, that's not me. Oh, I can't receive that compliment. It's somebody else. It's luck. It's help from others. But you attribute failure solely to yourself. And it's that downplaying thing that we tend to do. And I find this especially among women, and we call it dumbing down. And it's just another way how imposter syndrome manifests itself. All right. Next one is minimizing achievements. It's kind of similar, but it's where you have the credentials, you have the education, you have the success in your career, but you downplay it because you feel like it's not a big deal. There's a scripting going on, which we'll talk a little bit about some more in the next few slides. You downplay and you minimize your achievements. And like I said, men do this too. You minimize your achievements, you downplay it. Comparing yourself to others. So here we are constantly comparing ourselves and our achievements to others. And guess what? We're never quite at their level in our own minds. Remember what imposter syndrome is. Despite evidence, proof of your success, there's this phenomenon going on in your mind that you're still just not good enough. You're not good enough for where you are right now. Some other way, self-doubt. Self-doubt is another common manifestation where you are doubting your abilities despite your track record of success, or you are afraid to speak up when you're around other power players. So self-doubt works like this. So, all right, you feel like I'm ready to go to my next level. I'm ready to go into a bigger room. You get to the bigger room and there are other power players, and all of a sudden, what happens? You're shrinking. That same script reminds you, I'm not supposed to be here, despite evidence that you've actually earned the right to be there. So that self-doubt, and that's challenged when you have to go among other power players in your industry, in your church, in your ministry. All of a sudden, the doubt comes back that I don't belong. Difficulty accepting praise, similar to what one of the slides things I said before, but again, it's a difficulty accepting praise. You feel uncomfortable or unworthy when receiving compliments or recognition for your work, for your contribution. There's this feeling of, do I deserve this? Am I really this person? Am I really this big? Am I really, it's a difficulty. And let me tell you, it is something that a lot of people struggle with. Even just being introduced just now, it was a lot of things that they said, it was. But I had to get used to listening to myself being introduced because I did accomplish those things. And the reason why I would shrink back or someone else would shrink back is that feeling like, oh, what is that feeling of I'm not enough? I'm not, I'm not enough. It's an imposter syndrome because everything that is being said about you has actually been proven out in your work. Setting unrealistic standards. Here again, you set excessively high standards for yourself and you feel like you must meet them to prove your worth. How much more proving do you have to do to belong to that room, to be at that table, to belong in that club, that men's group, that women's group? It's unrealistic standards. Overworking, men and women both, we do this. You're overcompensating by working longer hours, right? Or taking on excessive responsibilities to prove your worth. Like it's never enough. It's never enough. So I have to overdo this. And, you know, this affects different types of people. And I'll say women feel that they should work harder than men to prove that they belong in the boardroom, right? And men may feel they should work harder than the next guy to prove something else. And minorities may feel I have to work 3 times as hard to prove that I'm worthy. And it's all of this proving when really what we need to really do is to celebrate where we're at, own our worth, and sit in our skin. So, but we overwork is an overcompensating tactic to prove that we're worthy. Negative self-talk. Engaging in negative self-talk and focusing on your weaknesses rather than your strengths. So if I were to ask, and I've done this with, you know, with leaders, what are your strengths? And they'll, you know, some will say, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. What are your weaknesses? And they'll give me a list. And so what we tend to do is to ruminate on the weaknesses rather than spending time on our strengths, talking about our strengths. Because really, as leaders, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to emphasize and work on our strengths and delegate the weak areas to our teams, right? To our team members who are better at that than us. But what we do is when we're feeling in that space of unworthiness, we ruminate on negative self-talk, right? And we focus on our weaknesses and not on our strengths. Sign of imposter syndrome. Isolation. Okay, this one is tricky. So we can withdraw from our colleagues or our peers because we fear they will discover our perceived inadequacies. Now, imagine this. Like, let's say you're in your family, and in your family, you really are kind of like a star. You know, you've accomplished a lot, right? You're being seen by the public or by your church or by your group or by your organization. But your family, you know, your family members, they kind of remain the same. So now what do? You may isolate because you're perceiving that maybe they're perceiving that you're really not all of that. And it's you can isolate because you feel like you'll be found out as a fraud. Meanwhile, you're not a fraud. As it said before, you've earned your place to where you are now. There is evidence that you deserve to be where you are. So isolation is another way that we try to wrestle with this imposter syndrome that's going on in our heads. And then we have this imposter cycle, where we cycle through feelings of success, followed by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, creating a constant internal struggle. And I will tell you, it is real. I've had Inc. 5,000 leaders and accomplished greatness in my eyes. But even the title of saying that they're a CEO, struggle to do when clearly they're that they'll call themselves an executive director or an executive leader, and I'm like, you're a CEO. You're a CEO. Own that word. Own the word CEO. You're the chief executive officer. And I think of that example because it wasn't just one person. It was more than one leader who had accomplished great stuff and wouldn't own the title. So there's this, you know, cycle in their head of being a fraud, but I'm successful, but I'm a fraud, but I'm successful. So it is important to recognize these signs in yourself or in someone that you know. And honestly, if you have these issues, my suggestion for sure is to seek support from a peer who is maybe a step above you that you feel confident to approach. Because if you speak with someone that's maybe not at the level that you're at, it may actually reinforce an imposter syndrome. So you have to be careful. Get mentors who are further along. And if some of these are really challenging, sometimes we need to speak to a mental health person, because a lot of these are buried into scripting from childhood, from circumstances, from someone telling you that you're not worthy. It's coming from somewhere. So how do we overcome imposter syndrome? All right, I'm going to give you some tips that I've shared with people along the way. So, actionable strategies. Identify and challenge that negative self-talk. So here's an example. I don't deserve this promotion. They must have made a mistake. That's what you're hearing. Or I don't deserve this accolade. They must have made a mistake. Or I don't deserve to even be this happy in my life, in my marriage, in this relationship. There must have been a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Because you're thinking in that mindset of yours, you're just not worthy. You got to challenge that by reframing it and replacing it with a more positive affirmation, like I earned this promotion through my dedication and my skills. Go back to facts. Go back to facts. I earned this promotion by my dedication, through my dedication and my skills. I've earned this time to be happy because I've put in this time to develop this relationship, or I've put in this time to develop myself. I've put in this time to develop me. So where I'm at right now, I've earned it. I have earned it. And there's a scripture that I love, it talks about whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, think on these things. And it's a way of washing your mind, and a lot of reframing. All right, so the next one is acknowledge accomplishments and internalize your strengths. And I'm going to say this may make some other men feel weird, but one way you can do this is journaling. Now, my husband is a more avid journaler than even I am. He has books over the years of journal. And it's a journal is to document your achievements. Document your achievements and success. And over time, you will notice patterns of success and realize that your accomplishments were not mere chance occurrences, but a result of your capabilities. Journaling that. This will help you to internalize your strengths and combat that imposter syndrome. Journal. I remember when I was new to this country. I was talking, almost 40 years ago. And I remember my first job was with American Express. And I remember just learning there to do my own self-review. It was their system that you would get your review and you would review self. And this was very helpful for your supervisor because they really don't know everything that you do. But it was a good practice for me as a 23-year-old person to learn to internalize my own strengths and to be open to where I need to grow as well. But it was more for me to recognize my own strength and what I had brought to the table. And even as young as I was, it was just a really good system that I practiced, and I still teach this day when I'm coaching others to recognize your own strengths. Seek mentorship and support from peers. And like I said, when I say peers, if you're already having a bit of a struggle with this, you want to make sure that you're in a room that you're comfortable. The room shouldn't be where you're the smartest person. No. It should be a room where there are people who are going in the same direction who can help you. And I'll tell you about mentorship. Sometimes we see a leader out there and we think, oh, they'll never have time for me. Wrong. I mentored a woman last year in my busiest time. Why? Because she asked. That's it. That's the only reason why I did it. She asked. She says, can we go to lunch? Okay, went to lunch. We talked to what she was struggling with. A lot of it was imposter syndrome. She's a president of a bank. We did some role plays. And then she asked me, hey, can we enter into a formal mentoring relationship? It was hard to say no. It was hard to say no. Why? Because she asked. Because she asked. That was it. And sometimes it's the busy people who actually make time for you. So don't think, I can't ask this man or this woman to mentor me or to steer me. Ask. Ask. So yes, I would definitely recommend that. And set achievable goals and manage expectations. Don't overcomplicate your goal setting process. Set big goals, break them into smaller manageable steps, and celebrate the small wins. I always encourage people to celebrate the small wins. Sometimes we're so anxious to get to that big win, but part of goal setting is a journey and how you're growing and how you're learning and how you're being transformed, right? Because in the process of achieving your goals, you're renewing your mind. And what does the scripture say? Right? We're going to be transformed by renewing our mind. So don't overcomplicate your goal setting. Set big goals, break them into smaller ones, and celebrate your success. Learn to celebrate wins, even the small wins, because that will get you into the habit of celebrating you. Now, another piece of this is self-confidence and self-esteem, okay? What is self-confidence? Confidence is belief in yourself and your abilities. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white, old or young, tall or short, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've seen successful people in all shapes, size, gender, color, race. It doesn't matter. So there's no formula that says you have to be 6'5" and or this color. It doesn't matter. It's a belief in yourself and in your abilities. I am capable and I belong in this leadership role. That's belief in yourself. You earn the right to be here and I'm capable. So positive self-affirmations. And I talk about this because people may say, well, you know, it's not just all about affirmations. Let me tell you, we're speaking negatively to ourselves anyway. We have, I don't know how many thousands of thoughts per day. How many of them are positive? And why did the Bible say, think on certain things? Because we're going to think anyway. We're going to think anyway. And the Bible gives us a picture of whatever is good, noble, uplifting. Think on these things. So positive self-talk, okay, is very important. Self-care practices. Imposter syndrome is worsened when we neglect our well-being, right? When we're not feeling our best selves. Remember, we take our whole selves to work. We take our whole selves to church. We take our whole selves everywhere. Everywhere we go, guess who is there? We are there. So prioritize self-care practices such as exercise, your meditation, spending quality time with your loved ones, which can have a positive impact on your overall confidence and performance. I'm really big on that with leaders because I see the effect of leaders, of poor leadership when they're burnt out, right? They just didn't have enough white space on their calendar, didn't have enough boundaries. And one of the things I tell leaders, you're scheduling all these meetings, schedule in literally on that calendar, your self-care time, whether it's your dating, whether it's your time with your kids, whatever it is, whether it's just a mental break, schedule that in. So it's part of the important things that you do on your calendar. So develop that, effective self-care practice. If your family life is out of balance, I don't care how accomplished you are, you will feel guilty about failing in this area of your life. If your health is suffering mentally, physically, or even spiritually, you will feel like you're failing. And when you feel like you're failing, it reinforces that imposter syndrome. Like, see, I don't really belong here. See, I knew I didn't belong here. My health is bad. This is bad. My family life is falling apart. I don't really belong here. What was I thinking? And it reinforces that conversation in the head. Embrace a growth mindset. I know you guys are leaders. So you guys have heard about growth mindset all the time. So I won't go into it too much here, but, you know, instead of fearing failure or doubting our abilities, let's view new projects as an opportunity to learn and to grow, right? Even if things don't go perfectly the first time, let's view it as a chance to improve. This will help to build our resilience and confidence, because as leaders, we know if we're not growing, we're dying. There's really no stagnant, you know? There's really no standstill. You're either growing or you're dying. You're either growing and plateaued, which then you're going to be going back this way, or dying. So this is why it's so important that you have the right mindset, because you've never fully grown to the max. As Paul would say, he strives for perfection, right? He'll get there in heaven, but while he's here, he's striving for that perfection. So if you're afraid to step into a room because other growth-minded people are there, and all of a sudden I feel like I got to shrink back, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. So embrace that growth mindset, right? View failures as stepping stones. I know John Maxwell, some of you guys probably follow him. He says to fail forward. Fail or fall forward. I like what he said. He gave us examples of when you're on the floor, pick up some dust, pick something up, right? So view failure as stepping stones. This way, failure doesn't have a hold on you. Because if you're already having imposter syndrome and you fail in an area, it reinforces that doubt, like, see, I really wasn't good enough, right? I really wasn't good. I've failed. Meanwhile, if you just step back and read some of the greatest successes of our time, they've failed more times than they've succeeded. So view failure as stepping stones. And if you are a leader in an organization, I would say to truly embrace that in your company as well, where if your team fails, it's not, it's not something you're going to condemn. You're going to use that as an opportunity. Have an organization where if you happen to be the lead there, that failure is viewed differently. It is viewed as an opportunity to learn and to grow, and do the same for yourself. That's what successful men and women do. Okay. Accept compliments. Okay. Accept compliments. When someone pays you a compliment, graciously accept it. Avoid deflecting or minimizing that praise. You know, one of the things, when I'm coaching, sometimes I would say, tell me who you are. You know, I'll just say, who are you? You know, Karen, who are you? Susie, who are you? And people would just struggle. They'll tell me some roles. I'm a leader, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a, president of this or whatever. Okay, but who are you? Who are you? Right, that's complicated for people. It's complicated. And so I want you to open up yourselves to accept compliments, embrace worth. You know, if I were to say, do you know your worth? Again, if you have imposter syndrome, you're gonna be like, oh no, worth. Start the shrinking, the shoulders go down when I mention stuff like worth. And as Christians, we'll say, oh yeah, we're the child of God, we're worthy in his eyes. We'll say that. But when we show up in the marketplace, when we show up among other people who are, maybe secular or others, all of a sudden we're not quite sure about our worth. Even though maybe in church we said we were a child of the, God, but how does it play out in how you're interacting with other people? Are you standing in your values, your worth, your contributions that you're bringing to the table, your opinions? Do you know your worth? So accept compliments. Learn to say no. That's another thing too, because we have to be proving something, proving our worth, we say yes to everything. Confident people, they say no, and they're okay with that. So for you to say no, you need to know, for example, what are my non-negotiables? What are my boundaries? What's important to me? including my self-care, my family, my career, you know, so that I can say no and be confident in saying no. You don't have to say yes to prove that you're that girl or you're that guy. You can also say no, learn how to say no, don't overcommit and take on more than you can handle, because setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing your well-being can boost your self-confidence. You know, when you say no and you're good with that and people still want you, you know, it's a good feeling, okay? It's good for you too. Professional development, you guys are part of Nobles, so this is something that you guys do, right? This is right here what we're doing. Invest in your education and career development. Learning new skills and advancing in your career obviously can boost your confidence in your professional life. And when you have that self-confidence, it is harder for the imposter syndrome to take a hold of you. See, I would say the opposite of imposter syndrome is a rock solid self-confidence. That's what I would say. Next thing is set realistic goals. Again, we mentioned this before, but it's very important to start with small, achievable goals and gradually work your way up to larger ones, because success in reaching your goals will boost that confidence, will boost that self-confidence. Celebrate your achievements. Whenever you accomplish something, even if it seems minor, take the time to acknowledge it and celebrate your success. Because again, it's you feeding your mind with more positivity. Because it's so easy to feed it with the negativity. And don't forget too, guys, that negativity is all around us in the media, just in the atmosphere. So we have to work hard against what social media is telling us about how we should look, what we should have already accomplished. That's a big part of the issue, the comparison trap, the FOMOs. So if we're not working on our own self-confidence, self-worth, mindset, you know, focus there, we're going to be in poor shape, because we can never keep up to the images that we see online. The physical images, the success images, we'll never be able to keep up. So pretty much just kind of work in your lane, know your worth, own your worth, be happy in your worth, be grounded in your worth. Practice self-compassion. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. Don't be too hard on yourself when you make a mistake. Self-compassion. Practice, be gentle, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. I talk about dress confidently because I think it's important. And it doesn't mean that you have to have, Louis Vuitton or whatever. That doesn't mean that. It means that wear clothes that make you feel good about yourself, men and women. How you present yourself can influence your self-perception. And I know that we're in the era now of Zoom. And I do a lot of coaching via Zoom. But one of the things that I teach as well is executive presence, which executive presence is not just when you're in person, but it's a lot on how you appear on Zoom. And I'm not teaching that today, but I'm just putting it out there that when you feel good about what you're wearing, feel good about how you're showing up, feel good about what you're presenting, it is going to boost your self-confidence. Remember, even on Zoom, when I'm doing Zoom meetings, one of the things that my clients know that I do, I'll have, the screen full, and I'm literally reading the room. And I can give a summary of everyone without them ever opening their mouth. Just body language. Just body language. So dress confidently and wear things that make you feel good about yourself. Dress to how you feel good about yourself. I mentioned body language. So important, even on Zoom, especially on Zoom. When you're distracted on Zoom, trust me, people can see. When you're disengaged on Zoom, people can see. When you're multitasking with Slack as well as Zoom, people can see. So you just have to know how to manage that, because you're always leaving an impression. Okay, you're always leaving an impression. So be careful about that as well. Maintain that good posture, maintain that eye contact. Again, even on Zoom, you might think it's weird, but even on Zoom, verbal cues can project self-confidence to others and boost your self-image. It also can project a lack of confidence. We're almost at the end. Learn from failure. Again, we talk about failing forward. Don't dwell on the failure. View them as opportunities again for growth. Analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and move forward with new understanding. Visualization. God gave us a mind and imagination. He said he can do exceedingly above all that we can ask or imagine. He gave us imagination. So imagine what you want. Imagine what you want. Visualize success. Okay? Imagine yourself succeeding in various situations. Visualize how you can help. That can help to reduce your anxiety. Just see yourself as the way God sees you. One of the things you can say in your prayers is, Lord, let me see me as how you see me. Visualization. Again, engage with positive role models. Like I said, find someone that you'd like to mentor you. Ask. Just ask. Take risks. Take risks. Stepping out of your comfort zone and facing your fears can lead to personal growth and increased confidence. And remember, confidence is the opposite of imposter syndrome. Okay? It's, faith beats fear, and fear conquers faith. It's the same way. Confidence will conquer that imposter syndrome. So in conclusion, understand the impact of imposter syndrome on your career or on your business trajectory. Take a moment to reflect on your own experience and challenges and recognize that imposter syndrome is a common struggle, even among the most successful individuals. Like I said, even among pastors, CEOs. The journey to overcome imposter syndrome is a personal one, but by embracing some of these simple strategies, you can combat doubt and embrace your true leadership potential. And that's pretty much it for me. You can find me on LinkedIn at Sharon Gill International or at SharonGill.com. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And here.
Wow, that was amazing. That was, I feel like it was a fire hydrant of just tons of goodies. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that today. I have like so many pages of notes because I was sitting here trying to type as fast as you were talking, like trying to get through everything. And I'm just like, it was just amazing. So we're going to do some question and answers. So you can pop those in the chat now. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share a few highlights. And I also want you to think of some ahas, like what were some of the things that stood out to you? Like, how do we overcome this? Those, I wrote down probably about 10 different things for my reflections. I wrote down 14 different things. I think one of the biggest things that you said is that it is so common.
Yeah.
And I don't know about, there are more women on here today, but I know that spoke to me as a woman. And before, moving to a house, I was in predominantly male spaces where, with men, and I was just like, oh my God, she's like reading my mail right now. That was my life. You always feel like, okay, maybe I have to do more. Maybe I have to measure up. Maybe I have to do this. And it's just like, it's just so enlightening. So how many of you by raise of hands felt like she spoke to you in this? Yeah. Yeah. All the heads are nodding. We're all in awe here. So any questions for Miss Gill today? Somebody has aha. If you're on the floor, pick up something down. Yes, I love that. I love that. Someone did ask, where are you from? I see you on Manuela. So good to see you. It's been such a long time.
Jamaica.
She's from Jamaica. Manuela, you're from, where are you from? Oh, can you put it in the chat or come off of mute?
Oh, my family's from Honduras.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So She totally gets that. Good to see you, Manuela. So that was a
Good to
cool connection. International on the screen. And Veronica, I think you're international too, aren't you? I feel like Veronica might be international, right?
Yeah, I'm from Mexico.
Okay.
I got here last summer, so I'm kind of new here.
Well, I love it. Well, this is definitely going to be able to help you as you get acclimated. I'll share some of the ahas I wrote down. One of them that rock solid self-confidence is the antithesis of the imposter syndrome. That's how I worded it.
Yes.
Rock solid confidence is the opposite of the imposter syndrome. So men and women, we just got to be more confident. We have to know who we are and not downplay. I wrote down fall forward, knowing what is your worth. Oh, this was a good one. Sometimes it's the busy people that will make time for you.
Yes. Yeah.
How many of us actually are like, you see somebody, you're like, oh, I would love to learn something from them, but we're like, they don't have any time for me. They don't have any energy for me. And actually, we need to have the confidence to say, at least I'm going to give it a try. Let's see. The Bible tells us, Jackie, you said the Bible tells us to think of the positive because God knows we're going to think. Let it be positive. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
good.
Yes.
Okay, we have a question. How would you balance humility and boldness?
You know, and I think that's where a lot of people get, especially as Christians, we're like, we want to be humble. But remember, they always say, if you think you're humble, you're not humble. So remember that too, right? So I know why they're asking this question. I think humility is a heart issue. Okay. So if you're going to be bold, because first of all, we're supposed to come boldly before God's throne to obtain mercy, right? That's what the Bible says. So God encourages boldness. He said he gave us a spirit of power. And I think if if in our hearts, we know we're not stepping forward in boldness because we believe that we're better than someone else, then I wouldn't worry about it. If you are bold because you have something to share that's going to build others up, when you think of boldness, if you're doing stuff to build yourself up a lot, you might want to check that with a pride piece, right? Because pride humility. So if it's a pride issue, you'll know if I'm looking for credit. But being bold with saying, hey man, I earned my place here. I deserve this. I belong in this room. That's a bold attitude. It's a bold attitude. And humility is also, remember what humility is. It's strength contained. It's strength contained. People think humility is meekness and mildness. It is strength contained. That you're containing that strength. You have everything that you need and you could show up, but you're containing that strength. So it's a matter of where's your heart and where's your mind? Where is it coming from? Where's the boldness coming from? Is it coming from a place of pride or is it coming from a place of worth?
Wow.
Worthiness.
Humility is strength contained. I love that. So for all of us on here, we can be strong and powerful. We just need to know how to activate it, navigate it, and operate in it. Let's see. Yes. Susie said it's challenging for Christian expectations, that whole balance of humility and boldness. So
and Jeff said Nehemiah is a great example of humility versus boldness. And I like that. I like that.
Yes.
Right? It was a heart issue for him, but he had work to do. That wall had to be rebuilt, right? And so he had to step forward into that moment. It's for others as well. That's what I'm saying, is for others. And so he stepped forward in the moment. And that's what we're not supposed to. We're not supposed to shrink back in the moment.
Absolutely. Veronica said she's worked in so many different areas that she actually does not feel like an expert in any of them. So she feels like she has to work harder in some specific areas. She's learning to embrace that as a strength, her, diverse experiences and all of that as a strength and not as a weakness.
Yes. And I would just say to Veronica, because you have worked in many different areas, at this point, figure out where's your passion area. You've done a bunch of stuff, but what makes you want to get up out of bed? That even if you weren't going to get paid, you'd get up out of bed anyway and do. And I would just say, with the time that we have, focus on that strength area. focus on honing in on that strength area. A lot of times as people, especially women, we tend to be jack of all trades and master of none. And it's all a part of that. I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. It's all this proving stuff where, you know what? I want to be just known for this. And I'm going to do this extremely well. That's kind of how influencers become influencers. They're known for one thing that they do extremely well, because everything else you can delegate.
Wow, that's good. Wow. So known for, that was really good. That was a little nugget. Everything else you can delegate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer.
Think about it from this perspective. You have a bad disease, let's say cancer. Do you want to go to your general practitioner or to the oncologist? You're going to go to the oncologist, right? Because that's what he or she does. The general practitioner does everything. What you want to do, you want to be that specialist. If you want to increase your brand level, increase your influence, be known for solving this particular problem for your particular customer or audience. Be known for that, and not being known for like touching everything else.
That's good.
Thank you. Actually, that was what we saw on the Noble session this weekend, to find our passion. And sincerely, I was having a hard time because I had so many options. So well, that's what I'm working on, getting focused on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Think about, Veronica, what you would do even if you weren't getting paid, because it just feeds your soul and it helps others. And I would say I would learn as much about that as I can to become the thought leader in that space.
Yeah.
So good.
Does anybody else have any other questions or thoughts? I know this was powerful for me. I have tons of notes that I need to now look over and jot down. And then she put her contact information and the ways that you can connect with her on LinkedIn. And I know that Susie will probably send that out again as well. So let's be sure to connect with her and with what she has going on. I'm sure you speak at other places and stuff. So I kind of want to catch your next talk. and yeah, because you're definitely an amazing resource set. So we just want to say thank you so much, Sharon. We really do appreciate your time and your energy and your wealth of knowledge. I feel like I'm walking away feeling more inspired. So
yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick it over to Megan now. All yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Adriana. And similar to you, I was taking a whole lot of notes as well. So thank you. It left me with that powerful question that I think everyone's going to leave with, is the who are you? And that goes back to what we do with Noble, is knowing your purpose. So I think, all these notes, this is going to be one that I definitely share with others, and we'll show you how you can do that. And just, it left me feeling a lot of emotions, but a lot of good things. So thank you so, so much. So we have some exciting things coming up. This upcoming Saturday, we have, so is it this Saturday? It's the Saturday, the 27th. And it's 9:30 to 11:30 at Oasis Church. It is live and hybrid. So if you can't join in person, please hop on virtually. But that is going to be with Jeff on embracing Paul's timeless wisdom for today's kingdompreneurs. I know we're limited on time, but Jeff, I don't know, real briefly, if you want to give us a little teaser for that, but we're so excited for Saturdays.
Yeah, I just want to share the relationship that Paul had with Timothy. And I think there's some principles there that as Paul was helping Timothy get the church established, and then he was leaving on his missionary journey, he just had these words for Timothy to kind of encourage him and give him some biblical guidance. And so I just think there's a lot of applicable things that Paul said to Timothy that I like to uncover, as I do move away. I am moving down to Texas. It's kind of like my these are the things I want to leave with you, even though I won't be totally gone. It will be my last time to be present in the room with you guys. And so I wanted to share just some things that God's put on my heart. So I hope you guys can make it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Well, I'm in Texas, so I welcome you here. We also have, and I believe Jim was on today, but We've got our next forum, which those are going to be at 11:30 to 12:30, the 1 hour, second Thursdays and fourth Tuesdays of the month. The next one coming up is going to be Thursday, May the 9th with Jim McFarland, and that's on coaching best practices and experiences. So definitely please join us again for that. We do have a way for you to stay connected with us. Please join us on LinkedIn. Our community groups will post upcoming events. So you can just stay connected. And then lastly, feel free to scan our YouTube here and you can see today's recording, which will be posted, as well as previous recordings. Find topics that interest you, rewatch them, share them with friends. And then on the right there, we do have a way to a QR to sign up to receive transformative insights, practical tips, and biblical wisdom. And that's coming from Jeff Elder. So that's what we got today. Thank you all so much for being with us. This was truly amazing, Sharon. So we appreciate your time and we hope you go on and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you, Adriana. You're a great host.
Blessings, everybody.